You're not going to leave.
Not going to leave. But we're packed and ready to go.
Unpack.
Hello, welcome to Star Trek Sodium. This week I have some terrific facts about Star Trek Deep Space Nine's first and second episode, The Emissary, Parts 1 and 2. So here we go, on to Star Trek Deep Space Nine and some terrific facts that you didn't even know. It has been reported that one of Gene Roddenberry's wishes for Star Trek Deep Space Nine was that the next generation's Dr. Pulaski should be made the station's doctor. He apparently whispered this to Michael Piller at their final meeting, straight into his ear, although it could be that he said something completely different that was misunderstood. Casting had already been completed at this point, but part of Gene's request could be fulfilled. Instead of Julian Bashir being the station's sanitation officer, he was made the station's doctor, giving the show a doctor character as Gene had wanted. The role of a sanitation officer was eventually used in the show's 4th season in a Blink or You'll Miss It reference by young Jake.
I just don't agree, Kira.
You are throwing it all away. All of you.
You're being a fool.
Well then, don't ask.
The Emissary would go on to be both a critical and ratings success, which was to the credit of everyone involved, but reportedly one man took all the credit for its success. Rick Berman scheduled a meeting with Paramount Studios' boss, Sherry Lansing at the time, where he made it clear to her as soon as he could that every element of Deep Space Nine's success was down to him, from the casting to the story and to the set design. He took credit for it all because he wanted his photo on the wall for the Paramount Employee of the Month. After his pompous brags, he was indeed made Employee of the Month, an accolade that would in turn he would brag about to the rest of the Star Trek team back in Studio 9. If he carried on this way, there's a chance he would start to get a reputation of being a big-headed bragger. One of Deep Space Nine's strengths during its soapy run was the friendships that it fostered amongst the characters. The friendships between Dr. Bashir and Chief O'Brien is amongst Star Trek's very best, as was the friendship between Quark and Jackie. But this opening episode of Deep Space Nine truly laid down the groundwork for the friendship between young Jake Sisko and Nug. The two characters would start off as polar opposites, with Jake being a good-spirited innocent and Nug being an aspiring criminal menace. But as the show progressed, their personalities quickly changed. The Ferengi boy would become a lot less Ferengified, and Jake would become secretly mean-spirited and insanely jealous of all those around him. This was never presented on screen or in dialogue, but if you think about it for long enough, you'll see that it's staring at you right in the face.
Made aware by Starfleet of your objections to this assignment, I would have thought that after 3 years...
Did you know that the original plan for Deep Space Nine wasn't for there to be Ferengis on a station, but instead it was to be the Gorn? In both the script and the very first day of filming, the Gorn were to return to Star Trek as a family of intriguing bartenders. But the space behind the countertop in the bar and the back of the bar wall just wasn't spacious enough to house the large body of a Gorn character with its large swishing tail. The actor playing the initial Gorn bartender was Armin Shimmerman, who suggested to Michael Piller that they go with Ferengis instead, as they take up much less space. Indeed, Ferengi characters are so small that up to 3 could easily stand behind the bar and serve people very good drinks. Now Armin Shimmerman, the actor who would star as Quark for 26 episodes a year, had easily been able to spare a few hours here and there for Star Trek over the years as a guest actor in The Next Generation. But this new role would mean that he had to heavily reduce the time working as a voluntary lifeguard on Malibu Beach. Before Deep Space Nine began, he found himself keeping a watchful eye on the naive tourists up to 5 days a week on the beach. But this new schedule on Star Trek meant that he could only now spend 2 days a week, keeping the people safe as the beach's only lifeguard. Sadly, the amount of lives saved on the Hensing Beach dramatically reduced during Shimmerman's time on Star Trek, but in a way it would be good for the public to look out for themselves for once, instead of having to rely on others to keep them safe. In casting the character of Odo for the Emissary, the casting team only had one stipulation. The actor would need to have squishy skin and flesh to correctly portray a character who would be liquid, held together in humanoid form. At the auditions, the final 2 considered actors for Odo were Renee Auberjonois and Courtney Gaines, but the eventual choice was clear. The casting team would require the actors to strip to their underpants and have their flesh squished around with the producer's fingers. Unfortunately, Courtney Gaines was deemed too bony, whereas Renee had quite a lot of give to his rubbery face and rubbery guts, and so he landed the role of Constable Odo. Another change that happened before the cameras had a chance to roll was for the Trill character of Dax. The Deep Space Nine producers knew that the Trill in this show would differ from the Trill shown in The Next Generation. There would be 2 main changes. This new version of the Trill would no longer have a funny nose. They would instead have sexy speckles down their face and body. The other change considered was that instead of the symbiont being inside the body, it would rest on the back of the actor's head. During the pre-production and costume fittings, the Dax actress had the repulsive prosthetic creature on her head, slowly throbbing and pulsating, but Rick Berman made the right call. Terry Farrell was an attractive young actress, and having a slimy creature on her head constantly would be a turn-off for the audience, and so Rick decided to go with the Trill symbiont staying inside the belly of the character, in that strange fleshy pouch. The episode is well known for being called The Emissary, not to be confused with the Next Generation episode The Emissary. But did you know that it originally had a much better name? In the original script by Michael Piller, the episode title was Bajoran Honeymoon, but once Rick Berman became the co-writer, he insisted that the name of the episode be called The Emissary. Michael Piller thought it was ridiculous to repeat the same name as a Next Generation episode, but Rick allegedly laughed at him. Other names that Piller suggested to Rick for the episode that were turned down include the Cardassian Withdrawal, the Interloper, Surrogate Nancy, Driving Stars, Morgan's Wish, From Earth to the Stars, Star Quest, and Deep Space Emissary. If we are to believe unsubstantiated reports, it seems that Shakespearean actor Patrick Stewart nearly didn't make his appearance in The Emissary. His Next Generation pay was contracted to a certain limit each year, but that didn't cover his pay for appearancing in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode. If we're to believe what's been passed down, he demanded $50,000 per word for his appearance, and that's why he's only in one scene for each episode of the Emissary's 2 parts. Michael Piller possibly tried to negotiate that shorter words would be worth less money, but the Picard actor held fast and finally got his way, like a child in a monkey shop. When the episode finally hit screens in January of 1993, it was a smash hit all over the world, with audiences lapping it up. Here are excerpts from reviews that I found. One media outlet said, "Star Trek has finally peaked with this terrific entry to the Star Trek canon, but let's hope that there isn't Star Trek in the future, released in about 2 years, as another one would be destined to be nowhere near as good as this one." A Popular magazine's review read, "We all thought that the characters of Data, Picard and Troy were the best possible, but now we have new shining stars in the sky of Star Trek. Major Kira and Jake Sisko are the new age classics, and we can't wait to see their interesting stories unfold." And that's just 2 of the reviews that I found. There were others, if you can believe that. Well, thanks for discovering these interesting facts about Star Trek Deep Space Nine alongside me, the person who's talking. Please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to subscribe, and leave a comment if you'd like to leave a comment. And I'll see you next time. All the best. Ta-ta!